Welcome back to the Sports Edge Podcast. I'm your host and Commissioner Dan Stanzik. A pleasure to be joined by absolutely no one. Not only is it Thanksgiving week, but it's also MT's actual birthday, so the guru is off. Please have a martini in her honor or wine for the guru. I'll definitely be having some wine this Thanksgiving weekend. Just pick some up actually on my way back home. I'm dropping off the kids. But this is just a quick pod to whet your guys' appetites before a loaded Thanksgiving slate of football. And we got 2 weeks left in the regular season, and there is a lot going on. That playoff picture is getting absolutely crowded. So we got to dive in and look and see what happened in week 12. We'll look ahead to week 13. We'll get you in and out. We'll give you some recaps, some previews. Let's dive right into the week 12 recap. And we start, of course, with the guru. The Guru's Man Rockets eked by the team formerly known as the Honey Bijan Badgers by a final score of 91.16 to 90.56. I hope that no one was watching that in real time, and specifically Walsh. I texted the Guru. He was not watching this in real time. He just woke up and saw that he won by a 0.6 point margin. Walsh, I hope everyone watching that. But that 0.6 margin is the smallest in the history of the Man Rockets, and I guess it is fitting that Walsh lost by such a slim margin after he beat Robbie by just 0.52 points last week. Also fitting for Walsh, who goes by Zero Dark 30 now, new team name, and of course an homage to the 2012 film with Jessica Chastain. Don't even ask me if she's hot or not. She is just hot. I don't even want anyone thinking she's not. So Hath, if you're thinking about throwing her in the mix for the next round of hot or not, she is just hot. Don't waste your time. Jessica Chastain, hot. New team name for Walsh. It's got to make up some ground to make the playoffs here. But also fitting for Walsh, another zero. Can you guys believe it? Another zero. This time, Jameson Williams. And I say this time because he also did it earlier in the season. His second 0-point effort for Walsh. Also had a 1.5 point performance in week 5. And JMO is actually coming off 3 straight games of double-digit fantasy points, and then he puts up a goose egg, and Walsh loses by 0.6 points. Like, you cannot write that. That is terrible. Williams and Quentin Johnston, another 2-time 0-point guy, I'm pretty sure, for Walsh. To me, fantasy fool's gold. They put up spike weeks. They look great. I mean, Johnson was like a top 5 receiver for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and I was putting up zeros left and right. I want no part of those guys. The thing you want as a fantasy manager, as far as I'm concerned, is you want consistency. You want a guy who's going to put up 10 or more points week after week. You want a guy who's reliable, who's not going to show up and give you a 0-point effort. I guess in many ways, maybe it's not consistency. It's more like you want a guy with a reliable floor. Like, you want somebody who's going to put up 7 points no matter what. Like, he's going to have at least 4 catches for 50 yards. Like, that is like the minimum that you want. You don't want a guy who's going to get you a 0 and then the next week's going to get you 26. Because after he gets you a 0, how can you have any confidence to put him in the lineup the following week when you get those spike weeks? So I'm just out on JMO and Quentin Johnston altogether. And for whatever it's worth, I've been out on actual JMO for years. One of my cousins told me this years ago, like, we're almost 40 here. Like, I don't think we need to be doing actual shots. So if anyone actually wants me to do a shot or is like, hey, let's do shots, I just straight up no. I think the last time someone wanted me to do the shots, I think it was Hoban and Glance. Hoban, you'll probably remember that. At the Grape, of course. We went to the Grape when Hoban and Glance were in town to play golf with Burge and I. And I'm pretty sure Glance was already hammered, obviously. He wanted to do shots at the Grape, and I was like, there's just zero chance. I've done enough mind erasers for one lifetime. So I'm a no on shots. I'm a no on actual JMO. I'm a no on JMO in fantasy. I'm a no on Quentin Johnson. We move on. Next game to recap. Hunter, I don't even know her. That is Zans. They outdueled the Hyphens 140 to 126. Pretty dicey there. First time Zans has beaten a team that scored more than 120 points against him. I never said he couldn't do it, just said he hadn't done it. Good for Zans. Robbie, second most points in the league and loses. Just brutal. And it gets even worse. I even referenced it earlier. Lost by 0.52 points last week. Then he scores his second most this week. He's got a 5-game losing streak. Robbie just can't catch a break. It's unbelievable. Zans has the best record in the league. They lead the league in scoring. They've clinched his playoff spot last week. And with this win, he has clinched a first-round bye. And his magic number to win the regular season is 1, meaning if he wins one of his last 2 games or if Half loses one of his last 2 games, Zans wins the regular season. Do you know the last time Zans won the regular season? Any guesses? No one? If Guru were here, I'm pretty sure he'd guess, let's say 2020. Well, that's wrong. The last and only time that Zans has won the regular season was in 2011. That is back when Barack Obama was still in his first term as president. Zans went 10-3 that season, was knocked out in the semifinals by Steve Curtis, who went on to win his lone championship. Steve's team name that year, Not So Dirty Sanchez. He beat Running Out of Gas, that's my team in the first round. Then he upset Yes We Cam, that was Zan's great team name with Cam Newton, before beating Kids in the Mendenhall. Remember Rashad Mendenhall? That was the Guru in the title game. So he beat me, Zan's Guru, on the way to the title. Steve's roster featured Carson Palmer, Calvin Johnson, Gronk, Maurice Jones-Drew, 2 criminals, that would be Antonio Brown and Ray Rice, and 2 guys who are now deceased in Cedric Benson and Mike Williams. What a flashback there. And all I'll say is let's hope we don't see a repeat of that 2011 season this season, because I don't think anyone wants to see Steve beating me, beating Zans, beating the Guru, and winning title number 2. I can't believe how long ago that was. I mean, some of those names on that roster, 2011. Yikes. We are getting old. We move on. The Stanzics, that's my team. We sent Bowers and company back to their castle to watch the playoffs from home for the 3rd straight season, winning comfortably 123-85. Not so great news on the Zix front, though. Justin Jefferson, 3 straight games scoring single-digit fantasy points. If Guru were here, I would ask him, is J.J. McCarthy Christian Ponder reincarnated? I mean, this is just bad. Hath, of course, Michigan guy, would probably be defending his guy, J.J. McCarthy, but the Vikings got to be kicking themselves. They let Steve's guy, Sam Darnold, walk, who actually had a pretty good year last year. I wouldn't trust the keys to my fantasy team to Sam Darnold, but I'm sure in real life the Vikings would love to have Sam Darnold back had they franchised him. Here's the thing, too, about J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings head coach, Kevin O'Connell, is one of, if not the most preeminent quarterback gurus in the NFL. If he can't make it work with McCarthy, I don't think anyone can. It has not been good. There's been some bad quotes. There's been some bad moments. I just don't think J.J. McCarthy has it, whatever it is, and it is hurting Justin Jefferson, and I don't like it. In the 4 seasons, Jefferson has played at least 15 games. He has finished as wide receiver 7, that was his rookie year, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 1, and wide receiver 2. So he is perennially a top 5 guy after his rookie season. This year with McCarthy and plenty of weeks with Carson Wentz, who is probably an upgrade over McCarthy, Justin Jefferson is currently wide receiver 15. I traded for him and thought he would be wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 pretty reliably. This season has not been going well. We move on. The McConkey off my back, bested Sale Seas 126-91 to complete the season sweep. With the win, Hath has now clinched the playoff spot for the 5th straight season. There is one manager with a chance to make it to the playoffs for a 6th consecutive season. Does anyone have any guesses? Anybody? Guru? What do you think? Because, of course, the answer is the Guru. It is always the Guru. They're all Twix. It was a setup. The Guru, 5 straight seasons and counting. If he makes the playoffs this year, it'll be 6 in a row and the active lead in the league. 5 straight for Hath. Congrats to him. We move on to the final game. To recap, that is the thrill of the chase. That's Steve. They took down the Elm Bros 122-100. Steve snapped a 3-game losing streak, and it was his best performance since week 7. Some of you guys may have missed this, but Steve completed a trade before the deadline with Zans. He acquired Dak Prescott in exchange for Jordan Addison and a 2nd-round pick. Pretty steep price, in my opinion, although Addison went full Jameson Williams, Quentin Johnson, and had a 0 this week, probably because J.J. McCarthy stinks. But Steve had to do something in order to salvage this season and give him an actual chance to make a run of title, so kudos to Steve for actually doing that. I think it was a little pressure from the podcast, maybe some strong words from the Guru and I about how he had to do something. So Steve is putting himself back in the mix with a chance to make a run for his first title since 2011 with Dak at the helm. As far as Pete's concerned, I mean, we kind of touched on the guys he should be targeting. He'll likely have a top 3 pick next year in the draft. But I would note, rookie sensation for Pete, Emeka Ibuka. Some would say the steal of the draft. Pete took him 5th. I thought it was early. He's probably a top 2, 3 rookie of the year candidate in the NFL. He has scored less than 8 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. Started hot, kind of starting to fade right now. I don't think, he's trash by any means. It's just a troubling trend. It would be more troubling if Pete was in the mix, but he is certainly not. Just something to monitor for him going forward, we move right to the Week 13 preview. We got a lot going on. It's Thanksgiving week, as I said. We'll start with them again. Random order. I just type them as I see them. McConkey off my back. That is Hath. They play the thrill of the chase. This is probably, if I had to look, this might be the game with the biggest playoff implications. There's a couple, but this one's, these two teams are likely both going to make the playoffs. Hath's already in. But a win by Hath would almost assure them of a first-round bye. The Guru would still technically have a chance to steal that. But the last time these two met, Hath won the matchup by 5 points, so Steve will be looking for revenge. I honestly don't know who I'm rooting for. I probably want Steve to lose just so we get more teams that are kind of bunched together. I guess that would make some sense. Yeah, the Guru's Man Rockets, they are 7-5. They take on Sale C 6-6. Guru could clinch a playoff spot for the 6th consecutive season, as we mentioned earlier. Kess is going to be looking to stop a 2-game slide. Hasn't cracked 100 points in either of those 2 games. Kess is looking to stay in the playoff hunt here. A loss here would be pretty devastating. So Kess is the most desperate team here, but the Guru can clinch a spot if he wins this one and still have a chance at that first round bye. So a lot going on in this one. And shame on me for not mentioning this earlier. The Guru, I don't want to jinx it, but he should be getting pod favorite Bucky Irving back for the first time since week 4 in this matchup. Kess might get O'Marion Hampton back, although he might be a week or 2 out, although I think they just opened his practice window. Either way, Bucky Irving's back for the Guru, takes on Kess this week. The Stan Zix, that's my team. We are back to 500 at 6-6. We take on Walsh, his new team name Zero Dark 30. Again, Jessica Chastain is hot, don't ask me. Walsh has lost 4 or 5. The Commish has won 4 or 5. Seems pretty clear Walsh is going to win this one in a rout. We move on. I love hyphens. They're 3-9. That's Robbie. They take on Bowers Castle 5-7. This matchup, at the last time I checked, was projected to be decided by a mere 0.4 points. Both were projected to score 120 and some change. A matchup that close is right up Robbie's alley. He has played in more close games decided by 5 points or less than anyone in the league in the past 2 seasons. Does anyone want to take a guess as to how many of those games were decided by 5 points or less? He has played in the last 2 seasons, 14 last year. He's played 11 this year. He's played in 25 games. How many of them were decided by 5 points or less? Ding, ding, ding. Your answer is 7. 7 games out of 25 for Robbie have been decided by 5 points or less. I know he has won one of those because it was the Josh Allen Neal game where Pete lost last season. And I know obviously he lost this season to Walsh by 0.52. So he at least has one win and at least has one loss. And he's at least a couple. I should have his record there, but ridiculous. 7 times 5 points or less in the last almost 2 full seasons, because this season isn't over yet. This week and next week to go. So if that's a close one, shouldn't be a surprise because Robbie is in it. And there is some like top 3 pick implications there. Like if Hoban wins that one and he's technically still alive for the playoffs, even though I'm pretty sure I sent him packing this past week. If Hoban wins that one, he might be working his way out of a top 3 pick. He'd probably be assuring Robbie of a top 2 pick. So if Hoban loses that one, there's a chance he can get a top 3 pick. Who knows? There's some weird implications in that one, but should be close when Robbie is involved. Hunter, I don't even know her. That is Zan's. They're 10-2. They take on the Allen Bros. They are 3-9. A classic first place team versus last place team late in the season. Just a gift from the gods for Zan's, of course. Not that he needs it anymore. The 1 seed is basically his if he wins 1 game of the next 2 or Hath loses one of the next 2. So if Zan's wins this one, he's your regular season champ. Pete's season has been effectively over for weeks, but I think he is secretly rooting against Zan's, not only maybe he wants Zan's to beat him this year so he can wrap up the 1 seed, or the number 1 pick, excuse me. But he's definitely going to be rooting against Zan's in the playoffs because a Zan's title would put him 1 ahead of Pete and in first place in league history with 4. Pete, of course, has 3. Him and Zan's tied to the top. Pete will also probably be rooting against the Pod Bros, the Guru and myself, because if either of us win, that would be 3 titles for us, and we would tie Zan's and Pete for 3 career titles. So that means, in no particular order, If the playoffs started today, he wouldn't be rooting for Zans. He wouldn't be rooting for the Commish. He wouldn't be rooting for the Guru. So he would be left rooting for Hath, Steve, or Kess. And again, not necessarily in that order. I assume he'd be rooting for Kess. I think I'm rooting for Kess if I don't win. Kess is the only manager that hasn't won a title in this league. Of course, there's a long hiatus, med school, whatever. Ask him about it. He's a doctor, saving lives. But then Hath and Steve. Hath won last year. I don't know if I want him to win again this year. Back to back, that's tough. Steve, of course, the pod nemesis. We don't want him to win. So if I'm guessing, if I'm in Pete's shoes, we're rooting for Kess. Definitely rooting against Zans. But there's a lot going on. 2 weeks to go. That's all I got for a quick pod without the Guru. Have a martini for MT. Have some wine for the Guru. Have a great Thanksgiving. Good luck the rest of the way. And we will be back next week to recap Week 13 and look ahead to the final week of